This is it's just going to be a ramble. Yeah, you know, I realize the channel is about off-grid camping and off-grid truck campers and things like that. So this is kind of off-topic type of thing, type of video, but I think it's something that needs to be addressed. Well, we're just going to do a little ramble today. I guess we're going to call this Wednesday Ramble. And coffee chat. I haven't done a coffee chat for a while. Somebody was saying the cup is so big that when I take a drink, it covers my face. Yeah, I guess it does. It does almost, huh? Well, I gotta have, you know, 16 ounces at a time. That's those little bitty cups like that. Now that ain't gonna work. You gotta have one of those that lasts a while. Just lazy because I don't want to get up and go to that coffee pot all the time. So anyway, so I think during the last live stream on Monday night, I was talking about needing a hobby, and I'd watched a couple of channels where you know, some of the off-grid guys and gals have started little hobbies and things like that. There was a guy that was into making rocks. Decorator rocks, and as a necklace. I guess he's got all the rock equipment at home in his garage, and he makes, you know, the small rocks and then turns them into necklaces. His wife makes beads out of rocks, and, you know, with the chain and all that. And he was selling them on eBay. It just seemed like a really good idea. He's an older guy like us, you know. And gives him something to do, and it gives him a little spending money as well. So I thought that was a really good idea. I don't know that I could get into something like that, but lately I mentioned on the live stream that I had been looking at pottery, making pottery. It's extremely fascinating to me to watch them form it with their hands, you know, and stretch it and pull it, and you take a glob of clay, you know, and turn it into a cup or a plate and teapots, and I just thought it was absolutely fascinating. And I got into watching a lot of videos, and, you know, I understand that it takes lots of practice to do those things. There's not a lot of videos of people, you know, just getting started and all the mistakes they make. There's a few how-tos, but you don't actually get to see what happens when you make a mistake. And, you know, I've seen some, you know, where the whole thing will fall apart and crush and collapse and all that. I've seen those. And I was looking around to see if I could find a potter's wheel, and, you know, they range from very expensive, thousands of dollars, to, you know, mid-range, $200 to $300. And then there's some really cheap ones that are probably for children to get started, you know, to make little small things. You know, I was really interested, like I said, and I thought pretty strongly about getting into it, and, you know, and then I got thinking, well, it's going to have to be fired. Pottery's going to have to be fired, or it won't last. It'll just break apart. So I started looking at, what do you call them, clines or kilns? I don't know. I can't pronounce it. It's a big oven that fires the pottery and makes them hard, and so they don't fall apart. And boy, those are expensive. So, you know, those are in the thousands of dollars to get you know, a halfway decent one. So that kind of cut that short. So, you know, there's some on Amazon, you know, that are you know, like you know, a couple of $100, but they're just for small, like jewelry type stuff, you know, for fusing glass and things like that. You can't really put a big plate in it or anything like that. So, you know, I was kind of looking around to see if I could find a used one maybe. And I contacted a couple of places by email around this area, that, you know, some pottery people, and to see if there was one that could be used, you know, on a fee basis or something. You know, you make a few things that you want to fire and take it all down there and then pay a fee to, you know, to use the client or kiln, I guess. I don't know. So far, there was no luck. Either that or they're just very closed mouth about it. They don't want anybody else. You don't want the competition, I guess. I don't know. So, you know, I'm just kind of stuck. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet, but I got to do something because this sitting around is killing me. You know, in another story, like I said, now this is just a ramble today, so we're just jumping all over the place. Started last winter. I bought a heater motor, and I installed it, and it seemed to work okay. I used it 2 or 3 times, and then I didn't use it anymore after that. It got warm and didn't really need it, so I just shut it off. So a couple of days ago, I was looking at the weather, and it was going to be really cold, like 27 degrees, and that's pretty cold for this area this time of year. So, you know, as desert rats, anything below 50 is pretty cold. So, 27 degrees, I was freaking out. So I lit the furnace, and everything seemed to be okay. It started and got warm and shut down, and so I thought, well, that was good. So I set the thermostat. Probably somewhere around 50 degrees or so, and went to bed. Now I woke up about 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. It was cold, and I noticed the heater wasn't working. So, you know, I climbed out of bed, reluctantly, of course, and turned the thermostat up, and nothing happened. I looked, and the pilot light was lit, but it wouldn't, you know, the fan wouldn't start, and it wouldn't fire. So, you know, I have a little ceramic heater that I use. You know, and that was better than nothing. I mean, it did take some of the chill off, but the next morning I went out and got the buddy heater out of the camper. So, you know, that's working out okay. But if it gets any colder than this, you know, I'm going to have to be doing something about that. But you know, it's a 40-year-old Coleman furnace. They don't make them anymore. They haven't made them in years and years. I remember a couple of years ago I was looking at maybe buy a new one, and there's a couple of RV wrecking yards around that they didn't have the same model, but they did say they had one that would fit. Well, but like I said, that's a couple of years ago, so yeah, I didn't do anything about it then. But one of the other things I wanted to talk about was there's a channel on YouTube. It's pretty popular, very popular, as a matter of fact. It's called Self-Reliance, My Self-Reliance. Some of you guys might know the channel that I'm talking about. Very interesting channel. He's Canadian and out in the Ontario wilderness. He's built log cabins, and he lives completely off-grid as much as he can. He uses all hand tools and no electric tools, and you know, he cuts down trees, makes logs, and builds his cabin. And you know, he's got a forest kitchen that he's built. He's got an earthen oven that he uses, and it's a very interesting channel. But he was talking about, a couple of videos ago, he was talking about how he was challenged by one of the people that watch him. I can't recall the name of the channel, but it's a pretty big one. And he was challenged to talk about mental issues. Seems to be a growing problem in the U.S. nowadays. You know, not like the 51 people, you know, where they need to be hospitalized and they're just a total mess. But you know, he was talking about, and especially men, how they hold things back, and that, you know, they don't want to talk about it, and they're, you know, I don't want to use the word proud, but they just don't want to talk about some issues that they're having, some you know, some depression and anxieties and you know, and things like that. He wants to bring that out into the open, and you know, he said that you know, he has a hard time talking about that kind of stuff too, and so do I. I don't choose to, you know, to let that part. I want to be open about my life and all that, but you know, some things you tend to not fall right in that. I don't want to talk about certain things. So, but I think basically, I think a lot of people, most people have a certain amount of depression or a certain amount of anxiety about some things. You know, and the problem is they don't get treated for it. They don't get it out in the open. They don't want to talk about it, or maybe they just don't have anybody that they, you know, trust enough to talk about it with. And he was saying that, you know, as a result of that, maybe not directly, but as a, you know, as a partial result of that, there's like, I think he said like 500,000 suicides in the U.S. every year, and it all stems from that kind of thing. People can't, you know, they just get to a point where they can't take it anymore, and they just decide to end it. And you know, it's just a sad thing. It really is. You know, narcissism is one of those things. In fact, I have a pretty good friend, I think, that she has had some problem like that. Not herself, but with a roommate that she's trying to be friends with, and it's pretty hard on her. And she's a gentle soul, and it's hard on her. And you know, I just think that kind of stuff, you know, we should be open about it as much as we possibly can. Like I said, you know, I'm repeating myself, you know, most of us don't want to just blurt out and say, hey, you know, I got all these problems and I want to talk about it. We just don't do that as humans. So, but yeah, I wanted to kind of address this, get it started just a little bit to see what y'all think about that. You know, I have some pretty good subscribers. I have some wonderful people that are subscribers, and they're all pretty open about things. And I kind of want to know what your thoughts on something like that. I'm not saying, oh, you should just, you know, divulge all of your problems. I'm not saying that, but I just wanted to know what your thoughts are on you know, keeping things bottled up like that, and not letting them get out, or try to address those little things that are bothering you, that, you know, that you could get out and maybe resolve some of them. I mean, yeah, so, you know, I mean, what do you think about that kind of stuff? I'll talk to you later.